what is the role, in your opinion, of a woman in a relationship? Because let's talk historically. Historically, there was this understanding that okay, the man pays for everything and the man provides, and the woman, I don't know, stays home, takes care, takes care of the kids, cleans the house. But that was at a time when women's rights weren't great, and so women couldn't even get jobs even if they wanted to for a lot of the time, and women weren't even allowed in certain spaces. Women weren't allowed in certain rooms, and obviously with women's rights movements, we've been able to get to a point in society where a woman can do whatever she wants. If a woman wants to become a lawyer, she can go to school, study to be a lawyer, an engineer, whatever she wants, a doctor. And so I don't understand where this mentality comes from that a man still has to pay, even though now women and men are getting to a point where things are being more equal. And even if you look at the stats, like women are more educated than men, women are going to school at higher rates than men. So, what would you say is the role of a woman in a relationship now? And do you think that it's plausible for women to still expect these sort of traditional values when society has progressed?
Okay, so a role of a woman in a relationship is really to help discover herself. The role, as you said, traditionally, we have had that situation where men were the main providers. But we don't live in this kind of way anymore. Men and women, as you've rightly pointed out, have access to education, for example. Yes, there's still this perception that it is a man's world. But as one of the singers said, it will be nothing without a woman or a girl in it. So, especially in diaspora, in the Western world, there are a lot more opportunities. Maybe in some of our traditional backgrounds, traditional African backgrounds, if a family had to choose between the girls and the boys who they send, to further education, they would still go for the boy, and we still value in our cultures the male more than the female. This is just how it still is, even with all the opportunities. You'd hear of somebody having a child. They would, if it's a boy, in most cultures, it's not even just in
Yeah.
Western culture, they would still put more value on a boy. And so I think in a relationship, a woman's role is still to discover herself, to make sure that she is able to be who God has made her to be. Because we all have a skill, we all have a talent, and we want to be in a relationship where that will allow our development to happen. Of course, the chores has to be done, the cooking still has to be done. In my household, for example, my husband does all the cooking because he loves to cook, because we've given ourselves permission in our relationship to be ourselves. And he loves cooking. In fact, I remember on our profile on the dating website, I put on my profile, I love to eat good organic food, and on his profile is I love to cook. So it was an obvious match for both of us to be together. So I think a woman needs to be herself, and of course the chores has to be done, and it doesn't necessarily have to be done by the woman. If your setup is done in such a way where there can be shared responsibilities. So, for example, like you said, the man traditionally had to pay for everything. Let's look at our budgets. Let's look at what money we have. In my relationship, I earn more money than my husband. That is a fact. And we don't even live together all the time, because by the time we were getting married, I already had a previous life. He had a previous life. So we had to work together as to how we were going to come together. So some of the time I lived with him, and some of the time I lived by myself, because at one point I had a child that was still at home. So that child had to be nurtured. So we couldn't just yank him and just put him together in this new blended family. It evolved. And so I think we need to give ourselves permission to be ourselves, but we also need to discover who that new self is. And our traditions sometimes makes that difficult to be yourself, because there's a norm. If you're married, you have to be living together. Actually, our situation makes our relationship very interesting because sometimes we're not together. By the time we come together, it's spicy, it's exciting. We do things differently because of the time of life that we're in. So, a woman's role in any relationship is to be herself. And if she doesn't know who she is, that's the first work that she needs to do, to discover who she is now in this segment of her life. For me, I had to discover what it is not to be now a divorced woman. I was homeless at one point. How do I navigate that? I had to start from scratch, literally from scratch again. But because I was educated, I had options. I could work. I didn't have to depend on anyone for money. I could go and get a job, even if it wasn't necessarily, the kind of job that I saw myself doing forever, but I could work. So I had to start from fresh. So being yourself is very important.